You know, it's not a matter of how well can you make a movie. It's how well can you make it under the circumstances, because there's always circumstances. And you cannot use that as an excuse. You can't put a title card at the head of the movie and say, well, we had a really bad problem. You know, the actor got sick and it rained this day and we had a hurricane and, you know, the cameras broke down. You can't do that. You simply have to show them the movie and it's got to work. And there are no excuses. And so you really have to focus on what you're doing and just plow ahead no matter what the hurdles are thrown in front of you.
With this car, it's going to be a CG flip. Use super speed over here. While that's happening, you look up, she shoots again, you duck down so she hits that car over there, that flips. Wow. But then, yeah, and then you're going to come out and shoot at her. Okay.
As a director, one of the most important skills you can have is being a problem solver. On every project, there will always be things that, for whatever reason, don't turn out as planned. It can be during shooting when you quickly have to come up with alternative solutions on the fly, or it can be during editing when you're trying to puzzle together something with what you have. And pre-production is pretty much all problem solving. In my first video on problem solving, I discussed a scene from Shazam. This time I want to talk about a scene from the sequel, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. This is a scene that I knew already while shooting it that we would eventually have to reshoot. It's the first fight between the heroes and the sisters.
Set.
I was really excited about that scene. This is going to be their first fight. But then there was a lot of problems. First of all, this guy was supposed to be played by Sinbad. You see, in the 90s, there was a genie movie starring Shaquille O'Neal called Kazam. Now, there's a Mandela effect going on where a lot of people remember a movie from the same time called Shazam and starring Sinbad. Despite people's memories, this movie does not exist.
I'm gonna introduce myself. I am Shazam! I'm the genie of the lamp.
But we figured it would be fun to have Sinbad in a Shazam movie. Unfortunately, Sinbad had some health problems at the time and couldn't do it. So then we got Shaquille O'Neal to agree to do it instead.
David Sandberg, you don't think I know who you are. Let's see, Lights Out, Annabelle's Creation, of course I know who you are.
Now we'd have Kazam in a Shazam movie. But a couple of days before shooting, there was a scheduling issue and Shaq had to pull out. Cameos can be very hard to make happen. We had 2 days to shoot this scene. A little tight, but doable. The thing I learned, though, is that it rains a lot in Atlanta. That's why the start of the scene is very dry, and then all of a sudden the ground is very wet. Every outdoor scene we shot after this, we made sure to wet down the ground the first thing we did. Then when it would inevitably rain, we wouldn't have any continuity problems. But of course, while it rains, you can't shoot. So we lost a bunch of time, and after that first day, we had only shot the conversation between Shazam and Hespera. Now, we only had 1 day to shoot the fight. And of course, a lot of that day, there was rain and thunder. So now we had about half a day to shoot the fight scene before the sun set. So what we had to do was take all the cameras that we had, which was 3 of them, and shoot them all simultaneously, just trying to get as much coverage at once that we could. I hate working like that. I like to shoot with 1 camera at a time, focus on getting everything right for that setup before you move on. When you have to just roll a bunch of cameras at once, all in a hurry, you're just trying to capture things happening rather than doing deliberate filmmaking. So we had to lose some things that I wanted to shoot and just try to get something. I was super disappointed, and I knew we'd have to do some sort of reshoot for this to try and fix it. But I also knew that there was no way we were coming back to this location. You see, we had taken over this entire street and put up all these storefronts and changed what was originally a pizza place into our cheesesteak place. They were never going to let us do that a second time. This, in my experience, is often the case with reshoots. You very rarely go back to any real locations. I learned this on my first film, Lights Out. We show all of Rebecca's apartment in the film, but the test audience wanted more backstory. And since we couldn't go back to the original apartment, we had to build an extra room on a stage that they could go into to talk backstory. I called it the exposition room. There's no logical place for this room to exist in that apartment, We never see it again, and Rebecca is suddenly wearing a wig when she goes into the room. Since I knew we weren't coming back, I tried to shoot some plates of the environment, and I asked VFX to try to document and photograph as much as possible of the location in case it had to be recreated digitally or something. So, in post-production, sure enough, the scene wasn't great. And as I suspected, we were not going to be able to go back to that location. So now we started thinking, what can we do to add to the scene? Well, if they go inside somewhere, we could make up whatever fight we wanted in this new location. But how to get them to go someplace else using only the existing footage we had from the location? Originally, Shazam super sped across the street to grab Hespera. Well, what if instead of super speeding across, he took off up into the air and then came down on Hespera and they both go through the ground? We could do that using just 2 existing shots by using digidoubles and set extensions. Now they're in a new location and we could have our fight. One problem though, Ross Butler, who plays Eugene, was unavailable at the time, so he couldn't be a part of the fight. But we could still have Mary and Darla come down to fight though. Now the issue of how do we get back into our existing footage? Because the scene still had to end the way we originally shot it. So we had this unused angle of Eugene. It's from early in the scene, right after he's shot Calypso. Calypso goes through the wall, and Eugene turns towards Hespera to shoot her. What we did was we painted out Hespera and added digidoubles of the others flying up from underground. So his turn towards Hespera looks like he now turns because the others came up through the ground. The idea being that he's been standing there ready to shoot Calypso as soon as she comes back out of that building. Now that the others come up, he knows that it's time to go. But in the footage we had of Ross, he started shooting at Hespera really quickly, so he also turns into a digidouble that's animated to jump over the hole we had now added. In the original footage, Shazam was just leading Hespera along, which looked really lame. We wanted him to carry her over his shoulder instead, so we put a porta potty on the back lot and shot our actors running into it and added in the background from an existing shot. And of course, since we didn't have Ross, we had to have a photo double strategically facing away from the camera. This shot is from the original shoot, so that's Ross, but Hespera over the back of Shazam is now a digidouble. Now, the last remaining problem was Calypso. She gets blasted into a building early on, and then we have this long fight before she comes out again. How to explain that she was in there for so long? Well, that's why I had them add wounds to Calypso that heal when she comes out. My thinking was that she got really hurt when she got shot, and it took a while for her to heal and come back to life. Now, do we ever acknowledge before or after this scene that she has magical healing powers? Nope. By the way, this is how the scene originally ended.
What?
When we showed that to a test audience, there was a sound of disgust from the audience that wasn't a good sound of disgust. That's when I realized I'd probably gone too far, and we took it out.
That's amazing!
Ed.
Now, this whole thing probably sounds quite messy and chaotic. And yeah, sometimes filmmaking can be messy and chaotic, but it doesn't have to mean that things will turn out bad. It can just as well result in a better movie. Like how they had to use barrels in Jaws because the shark kept malfunctioning. It arguably became scarier seeing less of the shark. So when things go wrong or don't turn out as planned, it's not the time to panic. It's time to put on your problem-solving hat.